Welcome, everyone. We are talking about the 2020 census, and I am Christie Marcella, Community and Economic Development Officer for the Jacobs Center for Neighborhood Innovation. For all of you joining us on Facebook Live, thank you. We talk about this very important issue. I am joined by Cameron McCoy with the census and Dhalia Balmir with BAPAC.
Hi.
Hello.
So tonight we are just going to start with Cameron's going to talk a little bit about the census, particularly response rates that we're seeing in the Southeastern San Diego community and throughout the Promise Zone. And then Dhalia and I are going to have a conversation with Cameron, about the census, why it's important to our organizations, why it's important to our communities, and how you all can help with the deadline fast approaching at the end of this month. So Cameron, why don't you take it away?
All right, so I'm going to start with sharing the hard to count map. Let's see as I get the share thing to work properly. So you should now be seeing a nice map of San Diego County, and these colors, the way it works is the more towards blue-black it is, the more people have responded. The more towards yellow-brown, the less have responded. Most of the areas that haven't responded much are like fairly rural, so that's not unheard of. But moving in towards the area we're about, you can see that some areas around here pretty well counted, some areas less well counted. Some areas are hard to count because of the communities within them that are typically very hard for us to count. Some areas are hard to count just because people around there don't, figure, oh, it's the government. I don't want the government knowing anything about me. Then I can't say I necessarily blame everyone. But in any case, this is one of the few things that where the government counting you is definitely absolutely going to be to your benefit. Through a whole host of things, it helps determine political representation, as in how big of a area is covered under each congressional seat in the National Congress. Also helps determine federal funding. And in a lot of these areas, people haven't responded either because they never got it in the mail or just tossed it out. They haven't gone online to do it, or they don't have access to the internet to go online to do it. So let's see here. I think I will stop sharing for now. If we need it again, we'll pop it on up.
I wanted to add to what you're saying. So just on the mapping, because I'm very much, so I'm with BAPAC, San Diego, Black American Political Association of California, the San Diego chapter. And one of my roles has been to keep very close tabs on this map that you just shared with the audience, because it's telling us like where we can focus our efforts, correct? Right. So at the beginning, I remember Christy and Cameron, when we first started this, it was like tan heaven and there were like pockets of blue, right? I remember that. And I was like, oh my God, we've got so much to do. And then the wonderful thing is, right, this is back in March. So over time, you start to see the entire county of San Diego just getting bluer, dark bluer, almost black, and so this is representing the different percentages of, this is the colors are representing the response rate, right? And so I think currently is San Diego at what, 71 or?
Let's see here. 1 second while I pull up the.
I'll pull that up while I'm sitting here chit-chatting about that. So, and so what we've been focusing at with BAPAC is because as you can see, there's still some pockets of tan. Recently, we highlighted Barrio Logan Heights as an area that has not been reflecting a very high response rate. And so one of the, as far as BAPAC is concerned, like we're all in this together. Like I know that we started off with our focus areas and making sure that those numbers are going up and up. But at this point, it's like, listen, let's all get together because this is really a county effort. So like, let's all jump in. Doesn't matter who's, looking at which area, and let's make it happen. And I'm very happy to see that there's some things we had talked about that, Karen, remember before we went up live, about how there's some things coming down the pipe, some activities, some events coming up this weekend. And I think it's the last week in September in Barrio Logan in particular, to really get, hopefully get folks out to fill out the census.
Yeah. And like for San Diego County on the whole is actually doing better in self-response than we did last year. Last census 2010.
Yeah.
The final self-response for the county in 2010 was 68%. As of today, we have 72.6% response rate.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
That's
and so
great.
Yeah, isn't that great? That's the average, right? But say
that is over the entire county.
but for example, in Barrio Logan or City Heights, where it's lower, so there's I believe it's like almost a 20 point difference. And so that's a concern because we talk about how funding is even more so needed in those areas where historically there isn't any representation or access or funding trickled down appropriately, right? And so that's why this hard to count effort is really about, it's not about the folks that are going to be filling it out anyways, right? People who are going to,
we're trying to find the people who don't normally respond and get them to respond. And
right.
So for one of the, we actually cut each area into tracks that we can use to go with. For one of the tracks in Barrio Logan, tract 50, the total self-response rate as of today is 48.6%.
Yeah.
That is also lower than the final self-response rate of 2010 of 56.8%. So there are some areas in which there's more to go. Another tract there has similar stuff, 41.6%.
Yeah, so
maybe if we also think about it, like, you know, those games where like Supermarket Sweep or something, where you like get more points and you get more money based on how many things you bring in, right?
Yeah.
And so if we aren't counting people in our communities, we are not getting money that rightfully belongs in our communities.
That's
and
right.
Like what Cameron's saying, it also means that we aren't getting the physical representation of people in Congress. Because I would bet if like our whole area was at 40%, but then everyone actually answered the census, we might even get a whole additional person like sitting in Congress, advocating for policies, advocating for funding that would come into our community. So I think if we think about it that way, of like not being counted just means that you don't get money that the government owes you and your community.
And we're currently estimating that each person counted brings in about, I think the last number I saw was $1,200 a year to their community in federal funding.
Okay, I heard it was not. I heard it was 1,950.
That might be more accurate. I've heard a lot of different numbers. I don't, because in any case, whether it's my smaller number or your larger number, and I honestly think your larger number may be more accurate, it is either way still a substantial amount of money.
Absolutely.
Because among other things, this is helping divvy up $1.5 trillion of federal funds.
I know, it's so much money
a year.
Yeah. That's crazy money, right? And it's like, to your point, Cameron, like this amount. And so when you think about that undercount, right? So I always look at numbers a lot. Like with BAPAC, our primary focus is Black community. So typically Black children under the age of 5 is in San Diego. The estimate is about 7% undercounted from 2010. That number equates to about a little under 400 undercounted children. But if you multiply that by like the 1,200 or the 1,950, that's $750,000 that could be funded.
Actually, so I just did some quick top of my head math, doing a rough estimate of the total people in the U.S. and going with just 1.5 trillion. Assuming that money is evenly distributed directly to where each person lives, that's about $5,000 per year per person. So that said, I don't know if that's exactly how they do it. I'm just tossing that number out because it's easy math.
And I think the other thing that we also talk about is we're talking about this money per year, but we don't have another chance to complete the census until 2030. So if you don't help the community be counted, that's the 1,200 to 1,900 for the next 10 years. And that's money that gets lost that could have been reinvested in programs, could be reinvested in roads, could be reinvested in schools, in a variety of ways that we're just not capturing because we're not being counted. And I think that's the one thing that people might not realize, like, oh, why do I need to take time to answer these 9 questions? Like, how much is it really going to make a difference? It really does, because like Dhalia was saying, it adds up. Because it's not just you being undercounted, it's that we are seeing kind of systemically particular neighborhoods not being fully accounted for. And often we're seeing those are the neighborhoods that where we need the most investment.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then, like, you can see it visually in San Diego. You know, people talk about north and south of the 8 parks, schools, hospitals, paramedics. I mean, just down the line, firefighters, transportation, all of that. And you can visually see it. So, you know, it's like if there's 100 people, but only 50 count, you're going to, that's it, right? You still have to use that. So that whatever that money equates to, the funding equates to 50 people, has to be spread to all 100.
I add in, because this funding goes to everything. The funding goes to federally funded healthcare programs. It goes to federal funding for roads, federal funding for police, federal funding for firefighters, federal funding for schools. And even with current events, I'm pretty sure you still want at least the funding for most of those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we talked about why this year could be even more difficult for people who are hesitant to answer questions about the government to do that in this current environment. Cameron, can you just kind of walk through what you walked through with me about, like, how this information is used? What is its purpose? Like, what right do people who are collecting this information have to share that information? I think that might help alleviate some people's fears. Like, if I give you my name and my birth date, like, I'm setting myself up for other actions in the future. That's just not true. That you might read in the news or you might see happening, but like, Cameron is with the census. He is hired and represents the census and can tell everyone and maybe alleviate those fears.
So, I mean, first off, every single person, in order to join the census, you actually have to swear an oath to uphold the Constitution and also to not make people's personally identifying information available even to other people in the census unless it's their job to have that information. So honestly, if I get your name in and then I tell my boss your name, how old you are, and where you live, I get in trouble. I go to jail. Because my boss does not directly need that information. The people who do directly need that information already have ways of getting it. So, and that's a, you know, federal crime that I forget exactly, but it's about 20 to 30 years in prison. So, I mean, I'm not saying that no one out there would, you know, never try and use that. I'm saying that the threat of 30 years of federal prison is a pretty good deterrent. And I have personally not seen anyone working in the census who I would not trust with my own personal information, for that matter. So.
And you can confirm, because there was a lot in the news, you know, there is no question about someone's citizenship status on the census.
We do not care if you're a citizen. We only care if you're a resident. We do not care if you are, we do not care how you came to be a resident. We only care that you live here. That's it. We are not passing any of this information along to any other government body except in a very statistical form. So statistically, like we might go, oh, hey, so people who live in this one tract, the Barrio Logan has several different tracts. People who live in this one tract are predominantly of this race and this ethnicity. Well, yeah, that's information that we make available for statistical purposes. We're not giving out your names, addresses, birth dates. We are getting demographic information saying they have this range to this range. We're not going, this was, this is Maria. She lives here. I'm giving this information out to everyone. That's absolutely not what we do. That's the sort of thing that does get people sent to federal jail. And even for people who have occasionally been sent to federal jail for good reasons, for doing, relatively good things, they still didn't enjoy it, and it was not a good thing for them. And this would not be a good reason. And so things would be thrown a lot more heavily.
Yeah, like you said, it's just really about counting. It's just being visible.
Mm-hmm.
As far as residents, and the idea that the U.S. Census just needs to know how many people live in areas. Because that goes into, there's algorithms, and it goes into so many things about how we end up having funding trickling down to the city county level and all that, right?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, this, like I said, this also helps determine after each census, there ends up being a redrawing of where all of the congressional districts are. And we use numbering from that census to determine how it goes. And I'm not saying that there's never been gerrymandering, because there very clearly obviously has been. That's not my department. We try and make sure that we have the best information so that we can at the very least make sure that every set of people, roughly the same number of people, has their own congressperson.
Mm-hmm.
And from stuff I've seen, given how much I know San Diego has grown just since I moved down here back in 2012, I'm not saying we would definitely get another congressman. I cannot promise anything of the sort, but I would not be surprised if we got more congressional districts in our county. Just based on how I know the numbers work on that.
Mm-hmm.
So the most important thing is that you count and yes, we need to count everyone. We need to count. Some people do not include children under the age of 5 in their counts, and no, we need those. Those are actually part of the census.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were they born 1 second before midnight on April 1st? You count them.
That's right.
Did they die at the 1 second after midnight on April 1st? You count them. Those are the rules. The big thing is also April 1st is our date. We pick it's an arbitrary date because any date we pick will be arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
But April 1st, that's wherever you were living on April 1st. And I'm not saying like if you were on a vacation to Vegas on April 1st, no, you don't count yourself in Vegas. You count yourself at the home that you were living in on April 1st. If you were homeless on April 1st, that one would work a bit differently, because I know some people have differing situations. But there's still a way there. We could still at the very least go, okay, well, where were you living as a homeless person, and use that as a basis. There are a lot of different steps. I mean, I do know that we have enumerators who are starting to go out and count the homeless population where they can find them. That one is I've heard some of the stuff going on, and the people who are going out enumerating are going to be having some very sleepless nights, because they're going to be out all night for that stuff, and they're trying to help everyone.
Cameron, I am going to take a couple of minutes in case there are people who speak Spanish on
Mm-hmm.
the line to just give some basic information about what we've been talking about so far.
Absolutely.
The census es algo muy importante para que nuestro país cuenta toda la gente que están viviendo dentro del país a partir del día 1 de abril. Así que usted tiene que llenar el census basado en donde usted estaba viviendo el 1 de abril, no hoy. Y es muy importante que toda la gente participe en este census porque los números son muy importantes para dedicar fundas, dinero, recursos a nuestras comunidades. Y hay muchos recursos y mucha gente que puede ayudar a usted a hacer el census, que trabaja por el census, ayudando a la gente a completarlo. Y además es muy importante y no hay una cuestión sobre si usted es una ciudadana o no. Esta pregunta no es parte del cuestionario. Solo quieren pedir quién está viviendo contigo, los nombres y los días de fecha. Y es muy importante contar toda la gente, incluso los niños, especialmente los niños de edad menos de 5 años, que en el condado de San Diego nosotros no estamos contando los niños. Y así es muy importante para las escuelas, para las carreteras, para las calles, para todos los fondos que vienen desde el gobierno federal. Y eso es el mensaje en español. Si alguien tiene una pregunta, usted puede poner comentarios en nuestra página en Facebook. That is the best that I could do, everyone. I hope people understood that if anyone needed information. Cameron, how do people get help? I think that's a good thing. You had mentioned that people don't have maybe internet access or reliable internet access. Kind of what are the ways that people can still complete the census?
So I am actually going to pull up, one second here while I set it up. All right, so.
Oh, go ahead, Cameron.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to attach on to what you were talking about, the homeless population, because I do know that the census has been counting people receiving services from the shelters, the soup kitchens, like these mobile food vans, and also identifying the different outdoor locations and other places where, you know, people are known to sleep. And so counting it in that manner as well. This, and then there's the group quarters, right, Cameron, that for like, is that like the military?
So basically group quarters, what that covers is if you're living in a barracks in the military, if you're living in a dormitory situation, whether that is like at a university, a college, I do know there are some dormitories serving as partway stations for people in rehab. Any of those qualify for, those are what's called general quarters. This also includes places such as hospices or retirement homes. There was recently a case where we got a call from someone on a retirement home, and it unfortunately took us a couple of calls to realize, oh, that's what he was calling for. Let's get him with someone who can help with that. But okay. I was trying to open something up in Acrobat and it was having trouble, but now it looks like it should work. So I'm going to share this guy right here real quick. So this is the this is one of the many flyers we've made. This includes the number that you can call for help that you will get from our local office of the census. And we have people who are able to help you fill out the census in not just in English, but also in Spanish, Vietnamese. I believe we have someone who speaks Portuguese, but I'm not certain. We have
Haitian Creole.
I'm not sure if we have anyone for Haitian Creole. That's actually not certain about that, but we do have French.
Tagalog?
We do have a lot of Tagalog. We have Russian and German as well. Those are me. Yep, I'm one of the people who might answer your call, or you might be transferred over to me. We have a lot of people with a lot of different languages. I don't remember every single one off the top of my head, but if you're unable to, if you don't have a smartphone, your smartphone, you've hit the data limit for the month, which, you know, given everything that's happening, if you have a data limit, I can fully understand having already hit the data limit this early in the month. If you don't have access to internet, if you don't have the actual physical, because there are still some secondary mailings being sent out for the census, but not everyone's getting theirs. Sometimes it gets tossed out. Sometimes people don't recognize it for what it is. Because I don't know about everyone else, but I've gotten a lot of official looking email that was basically or official looking actual physical mail that was basically just spam. So this is, but yeah, this is a questionnaire. This is how you call in for questionnaire assistance. That's what we call it when we help you fill out the census. Typically,
and you don't need, I was nervous because I realized like I didn't have the piece of mail that had what I thought was some kind of like registration number that I would need to provide. You don't need that. No. Like I literally filled it out in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep one night, and there's a way for you to skip it. If you just say, I don't have it, they ask you, did you receive a mailing? Because it'll just be easier to get to pull up information, I assume, like auto populate some information. But if you don't have that number or reference number, you don't need it. You can still continue to fill out the census online, or calling the person they'll guide you through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, do we have time to show exactly what you're talking about? Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let me just share it real quick so people can get a visual. I'm such a visual person. Sometimes
yeah.
Okay, where is it? Now it's my turn. Oh, here we go. Okay, and so this is something that we at BAPAC, we have done a lot of presentations on the census. And so we found out it was helpful to actually showcase like these screenshots, right? So when you're, so here you're talking about, this 12-digit census ID, which doesn't mean, you don't need it, right? So if you don't have it, you would click on this, I don't have my census ID, and then that would take you over to the next spot. So basically, I think there's one more, and then you click on, whether you're in US, Puerto Rico, etc. And then this is where you put in your address. That's what you were talking about. So this is where you just put in your address, and then it takes you on to the next form that has you start filling in this stuff for the people in your house, and then information on that. Whether it's whether you're owning it or renting it or active, whatever your situation is. Telephone number, which I believe, and Cameron, please correct me. This is just if they need some official census business. They're not going to be reaching out, to call someone, right?
No. This will only ever be used for official census business.
Yeah, and then they go into you putting your name in. So your name. So you're going to do this for each person living in your house: the sex, the age. And also then they go into the ethnicity. And I like this because now you can even write in, you're missing something here, right? So I'm going to add it in. If I'm yes here, and I'm like, but you're missing one of mine, I'll just,
I'm Venezuelan, what the hell?
Yeah, write that in there. I love this too, because the race, like for example, I'm Black African American. If I want to like claim my Haitian roots, I might be like Haitian, right there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This is so awesome.
Oh, yeah.
Kudos to the census for making that progress.
And we have all these other things, like you can see how we have so many different options in Asian, and then other Asian for anything else we've missed. Even some other race. You don't think that you fall under Black, American Indian, Asian. There you go. You can print your race or origin right there.
Yeah. So I think this is probably my favorite out of every question. Mm-hmm. I just love choices. I love expanding. And this is really about self-identifying, which is so important.
And what's more, if you feel that you're a mixed race, you can mark more than one box.
Yeah. 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 I love that. It's kind of like we're telling the US government, this is what I identify as. So get it right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just wanted to share that real quick.
And then Cameron, there you do have enumerators out in communities, people walking around the community. How do people, as you said, right now, especially with people being home, there's a lot of spam, there's a lot of like marketing happening. How do people know that someone is legitimately with the census?
So if someone's with the census, they will have a census badge, and I'm trying to get this so that it's not reflecting all the light in.
You're back, move it towards you a little bit.
There we go. Don't know if anyone can really make out details. It has a picture, says the census, includes like expiration date, a couple other things. Typically, they'll have it on a lanyard that says census, census, census. Typically, they will also, but not always, be carrying a bag like this. This is pretty much given out to anyone who does not work in the office only. And I'll be honest, they might still get one too. This is so. In addition, they will typically have either a census issued phone or a census issued iPad that among other stuff, they can use to fill everything out right then and there. They will also have forms if you prefer to fill out the form. Either way, they can still turn it in. They will, and so they'll be out in the community, and sometimes they'll be knocking on doors. They might knock on your door even if you filled out the census, because someone nearby has not, and they're trying to get what is called a proxy, where we can't reach the person who lives there, so we're trying to find out information about who lives there. And ideally we get it straight from them, but sometimes that's not an option. Sometimes they're not going to respond. Sometimes they're stuck in the hospital. There's several reasons one could be at the hospital right now. And if you're at the hospital, you can't exactly answer your door. There could be any number of reasons why we're unable to talk to them directly. So we'll often try and get a neighbor who knows details about them so that we can fill out information. So, but yeah, the main thing is they will always have a badge while they're out working. If someone's going up claiming to be from the census and they don't have a badge, well, then they're probably, at the very least, they forgot something that will get them in trouble because they're supposed to be wearing their badge. There is, in addition to the main 10-year census, there are a couple other census programs that happen basically throughout the entire decade, some of which are still happening right now. So it's sometimes you may get someone coming up to your house who's asking more detailed questions. This is to help us get more detailed demographic and also employment information. This is how we get information about how much people are making in an area, economic factors that can help inform what policies we, lawmakers decide to go with. Or also at the very least inform, hey, this area may need more help than this other area.
And they will look just like any other Census Bureau employee.
Like they will typically not say they're with the 2020 census. Almost, in my experience, most enumerators will say they're here with the 2020 census. These are other programs that are also run with the Census Bureau.
Okay. Dhalia, one of the things you talked about that I would like you to share is, we talked about the census resources, from the telephone line to the people out there who are helping and working on behalf of the census. But I think you also have a great perspective that you want to share as well.
Yeah, I was mentioning that, especially now as we're like wrapping up the last minute and trying to, get out there and do the best that we can. Like the best resource I think is ourselves, like, us really reaching out to our neighbors, just checking with friends, family, and, for those who have already taken the or filled out the census, you know what it is. You filled it out. You know, you're now an expert, so you can actually be a resource, right? You can be resourceful to somebody else who's still like, okay, I didn't get it. So funny, real story. I'm not gonna say who it is. Friend of mine I would not even think this person would not have filled out the census by now. I mean, and totally busted him, and like he was like, oh, I have not filled out this census. And I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? We've got like 2 weeks and counting, get it together. But again, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, this is person, oh, I assume that they had that person filled out the census way like months ago. You know, I'm the procrastinator, actually, to be quite honest, if I could put myself out there.
I have no idea what that's like.
Right? He had totally procrastinated. The intent was to fill it out, but just hadn't gotten to it yet. But he said, you know what? I'm so glad you kind of put it in my mind, because if the time came and went, things have been so crazy busy, work-wise and just life-wise, that he may have just completely overlooked it.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And then maybe, Cameron, speaking of deadlines, like when is the last day to fill out the census?
So the current deadline, as far as I'm aware, and I'm not saying that something new might not come down the line, but this is the last official thing I heard, was current deadline is September 30th. Mm-hmm. And we're planning, among other things, there will be census workers going door to door, going out to other places, heading out to everywhere where they're finding stuff hard to count, pretty much down to the last day. We are often showing up at various events. Some of them are events that we've worked with local partners. Some of them are bigger events where we've been allowed to join in. Very often, some of us will sometimes be showing up at a number of food drives in the area, trying to help people get counted. I know that several of us will be at, I believe, Logan Avenue Walk, I think it is. I forget exactly the name. This Saturday, several of us will be there. We'll have a tent. It'll be fairly easy to find us. I mean, as easy as it is in something as big as that.
Mm-hmm. And then, like Cameron was saying, there is a food drive that happens at Jacobs every Tuesday that's run through by I Am My Brother's Keeper. Mm-hmm. And they are in very much support of the census. The people who are there working that food distribution have people and staff on site who can help you fill out the census if you need to. You know, they're going to check and make sure that the people picking up the food have filled out the census, and make sure that people have the support they need to fill it out at that food distribution, which happens here at the Jacobs Center every Tuesday afternoon.
And I believe I did actually help out another My Brother's Keeper event. I don't think it was the one at your place, but at another place. And I just noticed someone had a question. Says, if my neighbor can't remember if he filled out the census or not, is there a way for him to check? If he fills it out again, will it count him twice? Duplicates are going to happen. If he's not certain, if he still has his ID, he can check with that. Because if his ID's already been filled out, you put it in, it'll go, oh yeah, you should have already filled out the census. In addition, you will get if you've gotten to the end of the census, you typically get a very long confirmation number that's alphanumeric with some hyphens. Otherwise, there's a couple things where there are a couple ways where we can check, and if we get more than one thing for the same address, well, we can just go, these are duplicates, and then we could just get rid of the one that's a duplicate. Fortunately, database technology has improved a lot since even the last census, so that becomes relatively easy for us to do. But if he's not certain if he's filled it out, I would err on the side of safety and fill it out.
I agree.
Similarly, what Dhalia was saying is a story I have to share is my neighbor is a Vietnamese immigrant, and someone from the census came up And she's not used to talking to strangers who talk to her. And so because I was outside, she looked at me and told him, go talk to that girl. And so he talked to me and I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm trying to have your neighbor fill out the census. And so I told her, yes, answer this gentleman's questions. And I just stood outside. I was playing outside with my child and I knew it was only going to take a few minutes. So I stood there in case there were any extra questions. One of which was, in her language, the genders don't translate. So when they got to the question of, are you male or female? She didn't understand what the question was. So I had to help her answer the question because it was like a translation issue, but I didn't need to speak Vietnamese to be able to translate that. She just let me know like that question she was getting tripped up on. So that's ways that you can help your neighbors, your friends, people who you know, people randomly on the side of the street. If you are as passionate about the census as we are and you want to hang out and just ask people on your block if they filled out the census, I mean, it maybe takes 10 minutes. So, and that's if you have a very large family. But overall, it's very simple. And I think if they know you, they're going to trust you and trust that you are saying that this is important so that they will fill it out and be counted.
And I would personally like to add to that, do make sure to follow social distancing guidelines while doing that.
Yes.
Right?
We definitely 6 feet away with masks.
Yeah. No, it's an important thing because I know not everyone in the area is following these procedures. I know because I usually at least leave my apartment once a day for one reason or another, and 9 times out of 10 I'll see someone walking down the street no mask.
Yes.
So,
Dhalia, what are other ways that you've heard people? I know BAPAC has done a lot of work since the start of the census to encourage people to be counted. What are other ways that you've seen people helping one another complete the census?
I think a lot of the boots on the ground, people who are actually, putting social distancing, putting their mask on and getting out there, food distributions. I'm very much a virtual person. I could be virtual all day long, and I love this kind of stuff. So, that's where I shine, right? So we've been doing census happy hours. We even did a Kahoot game. We did a Kahoot game about the census, the history of the census, and we giving out, prizes for folks just to kind of, switch it up. Definitely partnership. Morning shows, gospel radio. I've been on there too. It's just really, it's funny because we start off doing this because we're trying to get, we want an outcome, right? And we're doing it for a purpose. But once COVID hit and you started you had to get creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had to get creative and figure out. And then you're like, let's just have fun with this. And so I think that's all part of it, just a sense of community in a way that we have not done before. That's what I've seen with this. That is actually something that I've seen with the census effort.
Yeah. And I think maybe even now that school has started, it could be a great way. Like if your children haven't seen their friends, and you have the ability to do like a Zoom or a Google chat or get on Facebook and one of you does a Facebook Live and people can watch what you're doing, engaging with kids right now. They're doing the distance learning. They're probably a little bit wired out looking at all of the school stuff, but this could actually be fun where like them and their friends could fill it out for your family. Just like Dhalia said, try and make it fun. Think of creative ways to get people together. And get that money that your family and your community, deserves to get by being counted.
Absolutely. And the thing is with the younger folks, these kids, they're brilliant. Like they're tech savvy. They know how to whip up a video and, have some fun with it. So that's where I would definitely tap into if we had more time. Thinking back, I'm part of, it's an organization called Jack and Jill Organization. It's a national organization of Black mothers and their children. And I just saw our teen group got together and did this fantastic videos across different regions of voting on what the importance of the vote, because that's the next thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking these are just teenagers getting together, creating this just brilliant videos and clips, and that's their contribution. That's the same thing with the
All
census.
right. So I see that there are two more questions that have gone on since we've been doing. One of them is, does everyone in the household have to fill out the census? And the answer is, you need to. The census only needs to be filled out once per household. And when it's filled out, it should include every single person in that household should be included in the census.
Yep.
So that's fortunately a quick answer. Another one was, is there somewhere in Southeastern San Diego that people can go to take the census in person? That one is, there are certain events going on. I don't know if I do not know every single event that we have going on. But I do know that we have regular events happening. So usually look for, if there's any sort of event that might be, especially food drives. We have a number of events happening at various local libraries, at least once a week. So there's several different people trying to find different ways to get people out there to help fill out the census.
Cameron, where do people get access to like the calendar of where these events are happening?
I don't actually, the thing is, unfortunately, I don't have a calendar of where all these events are happening. If I did, if there was any such calendar that I could hand out, I would absolutely do so. As it stands, I can confirm that the one thing that I know is coming up is there's so it's the Logan Ave Walk the Block, which is happening. Let's see here. Yep, this Saturday, September 12th. So that will be. It's also going to be taking place on September 26th as well. There will be representatives from the census there. There are other things that I know. And this is something where you'll want to check with your local libraries, but a lot of local libraries will at least have once a week some people from the census out there to try and help people get signed up. There's one that happens Fridays. It's going to be moving after this Friday. This Friday it's 11 to 2. After that, it'll be moving to 1 to 4. That's at the College of Orlando Library. So not necessarily, depending on how you define Southeastern San Diego, that may be valid. Whereas I was meanwhile thinking like south of the 94, but north of the 50, or south of the 94, north of the 54. That's what I typically think of as in Southeastern. I do not know 100% certain what events are happening there. I do know we've got events. I do believe we also have Wednesday afternoon events that happen at the library on Fairmont, whose name I'm forgetting because I often forget names.
Dhalia, do you know of any additional events?
Yeah, so I want to say, if you're looking, go on to Count Me 2020 on the Facebook page. If there's something going on, someone will be posting on there, so you can follow them. Count Me 2020. It's a coalition that was formed in San Diego of multiple community-based organizations. You can go on the BAPAC San Diego page, and we will be posting it on there on Facebook. And this on the 21st, the week of the 21st through the 26th in Barrio Logan, they're doing a Census Week of Action. And part of this action is for folks to come out and actually complete the census and then get free food from local businesses. So we'll be supporting the economy of the local businesses as well and getting our census forms filled out. I believe one of the local restaurants is Antojitos. I do apologize if I'm stating it incorrectly, but it's Antojitos Colombianos. And so, head over there, fill out the census and get some food. Week of the 21st through the 26th.
And that's being led by Logan Heights CDC. So I'm sure if you also like them on Facebook, you'll be able to see information about that particular event.
Yeah, and so I think one of the things that whatever community organizations you know of that we haven't mentioned here, go onto their Facebook, go onto their site, Cameron mentioned the libraries. Check with the library and just look out, because I'm sure I've seen signs for stuff going on.
We are doing our best to come up with more events where we can be out there in the community helping people fill this out.
Yeah.
So like it's one of those, there may be an event that's happening tomorrow that I don't even know about because they are just finishing filling out the paperwork today. So one other thing though, I just saw another question: how can organizations encourage their members or the public to take the census? A large part is make sure they have the information. At the very least for your own members, circulate emails, say, hey guys, this is the census, this is why it's important, make sure you do it. As far as getting it out to the public, that depends upon how your organization or actually interacts with the public, but social media is always there. Social media, in-person events, anything. We have lots of different ways that you can reach out to people. I'm sure the two of you may have your own ideas that are a bit more detailed because you are working in such organizations.
Yeah, Count Me 2020, the website, Dhalia, like you were saying, also has a bunch of resources, like toolkits where you can, they have flyers already made. So it's literally just like posting the flyer and then post the link to census.gov, and then just drive people, to that website. They also have FAQs on there. So that coalition has really put out a lot of resources that can be used by other organizations. And then similarly, if you follow, for example, BAPAC or Jacob Center, we have social media that we have done, and we have staff who are like doing that marketing in social media, that if you just go on and then share that with your constituency, you don't have to worry about, oh, what image am I going to find or what language am I going to use? Like you can just share some other organization's messaging and just reiterate your support and have that go out to your constituency.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you need like a Census 2020 watch party, hey, Dhalia Balmir at gmail.com. You can find me on BAPAC. I will pull together my partners in crime, Joanne Fields from API, and also Ray Donegan from the Census, and we'll make it happen.
And then also, Cameron, I don't know what the census resources are, but I also know just that right across the street from Jacobs, there are a ton of people who are often waiting in line while waiting to get tested at our county's walk-up facility for COVID. And that could be a great time because people sometimes are waiting in line for a pretty long period of time, where it could be a great time to capture. I don't know if the census has staff to send people out there or volunteers out there, but I just wanted to let you know, across the street from our facility, there are definitely kind of a captive audience if we want to try and
at the very least, I will pass this along to some of the people with whom I work that try and come up with ideas. That one we would also absolutely because we don't want to necessarily piss off the people running that event, because their event is the big thing. It's like people going, hey, we need to get tested. Yes, that's actually an immediate importance, and getting the census is also important. But between getting the census and making sure you get tested for COVID, I'll be honest, do get tested for COVID, but then to fill out the census. I actually priority. To give you some of the idea of my personal commitment to helping deal with COVID, I actually signed up for one of the medical tests for one of the vaccines. Oh. So I do not know if I actually got the vaccine or I got a placebo because it's a double blind, but hey. I'm helping the medicine happen in my own small part.
Cameron, it might be great, since we're getting kind of close to the top of the hour, it might be great for us to bring up that hard to count map again, so that way people in our area and in our neighborhoods can see, like, if you're located in a lighter blue area, or if you're even located in an area that's looking more yellow or brown, to really know, hey, leverage whatever support you can to help get more of the responses in the census completed
All right, so I am pulling this up, and you guys can actually find this on your own as well. If you're, it's Census Hard to Count Maps 2020.us, or you can just Google Census HTC map, HTC being short for hard to count. I personally find that easier than remembering the whole URL. But as you can see, any of these dark blue or green areas are, we're not saying that you shouldn't fill this out if you haven't already, because you absolutely still should, but these are areas that most of the people in the area have filled them out. But if you're seeing any areas that look yellow, tan, or brown on here, and you can see the big ones in this area, we've got this one's the area by SDSU. That one's going to be very hard for us to fill out because we want people who are living in that area but not in dorms on April 1st. And if you're a college student living in an apartment, you don't necessarily even know that the census is happening.
Yeah.
If you are living in dorms on April 1st, you're already counted. Don't worry about that. You're good.
Cameron, can you zoom in?
Yeah,
yep,
can we zoom in? I think I want to talk about that a little bit. So if there's any students out there who are in that area by SDSU and you don't know about the census, now you know. Fill it out.
And this is the area where you want a lot of stuff, but the areas nearby could use it too. Like pretty much most of the sections south of the 8 still need people to fill this out.
Yeah,
so,
and if you can keep scrolling down a little bit, Cameron, so we can see and just orient people, because obviously, yep, if you stop there now, so everyone on the map can see the Food for Less name right above Valencia Park. That is right where we're located at JCNI. You can see very clearly that Euclid is a barrier from what we get is consistently dark blue. You know, there are some pockets of lighter blue, but pretty heavy looking blue to light blue. And then as we continue to go west, it gets even lighter and lighter until it starts inching into the yellow.
Yeah, and understand those light blues that's what between 50 something to 60 something.
So it's like, let's see here. Dark blues are 62 to 68. If it's the really deep blue, that's 68 to 72. But these light blues, this right here would be 56 to 62. This like almost like very light cyan over here is 50 to 56.
Yeah, so if you're in Logan Heights, any of these areas, you please talk to your neighbors, find out, because the light blue is we need it darker. We need it darker. We need to move up those, because you can see that's the disparity. We're talking about funding to areas are historically and needed more so. Like I live in Rancho Penasquitos. I think we're at 90%. It is like near dark blue. And if you want to show
there's
them
some areas that are sort of greenish, as you can see.
Yeah, like
right here by East Lake.
Yeah, see that? Like that's what we're trying to. This is what we want the entire county of San Diego to look like. That right? You know, that dark, but even the second to the dark, right? Yep. And if you know what your area is up here, you can see it says address and zip code. You put in your zip code, it'll highlight your area.
And so it'll even pop up like local things, because I think it's tied into Google Maps. But yeah, you can just put in your zip code. Like I will put in the zip code I live in.
Okay.
Which is 92115. And got to click on the San Diego, and it just pops in. You can see the whole college area, Mid-City, Redwood Village, Oak Park, City Heights, Lemon Grove, all the way over to La Mesa. And not all of this is in, like, I can actually change it so it shows info by other things. I can't actually pull it up by zip code. Oh, well, that would have been nice. I can search by zip code, show info by tracks.
And so we are having someone put in a link to this hard to count map so that you can really like look at the neighborhood where you're at, or even neighboring neighborhoods. If your little area is dark blue and looks like it's okay, like maybe you know some people who live in some of the other areas that are a lot lighter blue, and try and help them to be counted.
Right. And then you can also like zoom it in to see the actual, like you were saying, Christie, how we can actually see the roads, the streets, right? And then if you click on it, if you click on the map, it'll also pop up to tell you what that percentage is.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, why is this little area like a different color? You can click and it'll give you that color, like that actual response rate for that area.
Like this little tract, which is, let's see here, it's between what, 43rd, 47th, and then what's that up top? Not sure, but this one, you can even see that they even show the current self-response and the 2010 final self-response. Some areas have a lot to go to even reach 2010 levels. What's more, there's a couple other things on here. For instance, because I'm currently using self-response rate by tract. If you want to go by county or state, you could do that too. There's also this guy right here, which I'm going to click. This shows which areas are the bottom 20% self-response rate. And this shows more areas. So you can see that we have some areas that weren't even in the, weren't even showing as tan, are still in the bottom 20% of self-response rate. And those areas are probably going to get a little bit less than they should just because of that low response rate compared to other areas.
Well, they're going to get a lot less than they should because we're looking at a disparity rate of about 20-point difference minimum. So when you think about that in funding, that's significant.
It is.
So it's a little bit more than just a little. I wanted the audience to understand the gravity of what we're talking about here. And so just think about that. And when
we think, I think, Dhalia, and if you can zoom out, Cameron, when we think and we talk about equity and we're seeing a lot of the equity issues, remember this, the colors that are dark blue on this map are getting their money.
Yes.
They're getting it.
Yeah.
And you look and you look in and you're like, wait, but those are communities that already have money.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And so let's really talk about, like, the income disparities continue, the equity disparities continue. A lot of that can be linked probably to the census and the fact that they're not being counted. So they're not getting the influx of investment that counties, areas of the county that already have, because they respond higher, continue to get more funding.
Exactly. And representation, think about that. Yes. When a city official is looking on where should I spend the money for funding and they don't see the numbers, then I'm going to redirect my funding somewhere else, depending on where their district is, right? Is that correct?
I mean, I don't personally work in there, so I don't know, but that's at the very least a reasonable supposition.
I love your responses.
I mean, I'll be honest, one part of me at some point does want to go into politics, but until I'm there, I don't know. I haven't done it.
I love it.
I know Dhalia might have to leave us soon. Are there any last minute questions on our comments page to see if we need to address any others before we sign off and thank everyone who joined us? Even if this hour-long webinar just gets 3 more census, responses, then we've done our job, because we're just trying to get everyone to really take those 10 minutes and fill it out, or help someone fill it out. And
I will personally count that as a win, because there have been times when I've been out at an event for 3 hours and only gotten 1 sign up. So yes, if we get 3 signups for 1 hour event, that's great. But what I personally hope, even on the times when I go out to an event, try and get people signed up, don't even get a single sign up, which has happened to me once or twice. I still hope that the people will at the very least take the info, remember, tell their friends, and maybe their friends will do it. And if I can get even just 1 or 2 extra from there, I'm doing my job.